Convention of States wins a supermajority of the Senate in Kansas, a requirement only in Kansas, only in the Kansas Senate. And the only thing that stopped Kansas from being number 20 last year was the fact that they had the supermajority requirement in the Senate. Well, we just won the supermajority requirement onto the House. Let's get into it.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Is the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Hello, everybody, and big news in the Article 5 front, and as far as wins, as we are stacking the small wins, and a large one today. Not exactly the 20th state, but a huge accomplishment in Kansas. So, first of all, I've been making posts with my Patriot guy, and his Article 5 can of beer, and kind of doing a cheers every time something cool happens. And a lot of cool things have been happening. So I haven't been on live in a little while, but I can tell you that I think Facebook is starting to take the shackles off. Now, they're always skeptical when it comes to live broadcasts, so I don't know how much that will affect the live broadcast, but I am going to start dabbling in producing videos again and see if it makes a difference, because a few posts have gotten some attention that I put out, and there was nothing particularly special about them. They were good points to be made, but they went, the amount of views that those posts got were similar to the way it was when the page was growing rapidly and we were killing it. And it hasn't been that way in a very long time. So I've been cautiously waiting after Zuckerberg made that announcement that he was going to start taking the shackles off, and I'm cautiously optimistic that he may have done so. So we'll see. So look out for some new videos that I'll be putting out in the near future. But right now I want to talk about Convention of States. This broadcast is all about Convention of States. If you don't know anything about Convention of States, then let me know, and simply drop a comment, whether you're watching this on X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. It's broadcasting on all of them, and regardless of where you're watching from, drop a comment, because I've got them all unified here, and I can highlight them and respond to you in real time. And I will stop the broadcast at any moment for anyone who has a question regarding Article 5. And the calling of a convention of states for the purpose of proposing amendments to the U.S. Constitution. In this case, those amendments would be under the topics of term limits, fiscal restraints on the federal government, and amendments on government overreach. Those are specific topics in all of the 19, soon to be 20 resolutions that have been put forth by the states. So, for those of you who have been following the movement for a while, Kansas last year, it should have been state number 20, and they have this do-do-do rule that they put in during the abortion era, Roe v. Wade, excuse me, where for an Article 5 convention, the only topic you need to have a supermajority, meaning 2/3 of the Senate. This doesn't apply in their House, but in their Senate, this applies. And we ended up with the majority. We won the House. We got a majority in the Senate, but ended up still losing because you needed a supermajority. So this year, all right, and that's what makes this a big deal, is because this year we got the supermajority. So there was a lot of back and forth about whether it's even constitutional to just pick out a constitutional article and use that as a supermajority. All this battling legalese was going on back and forth, none of which matters now because we just simply went and got the votes. And we got the supermajority in the Kansas Senate, which is enormous. So that being said, it's going to go on to the House. Now, in the House, we did win the House last year. So, again, I think everybody is kind of cautiously optimistic that Kansas can become the 20th state to sign on but I say cautiously because we saw what just happened in South Dakota, right? Where, it blew through the House, went through the Senate committee or blew through the Senate, went through the House committee, and all of a sudden, and we thought we had the votes in the House, and then we didn't. So, but now that being said, South Dakota, frankly, was not even on my radar. So I'm not, I wasn't overly upset about South Dakota because they just have reading issues there. When I say that, I don't even mean it as an insult. I mean, they just need to read more. The questions that get asked, and when you start watching these debates on the state legislature floors about this stuff, it's you realize you're hearing the same things, right? You're hearing the same arguments. There are a handful of Soros groups. The three groups that try to fearmonger the American public in these state legislatures, two of them are Soros groups, and one of them is the John Birch Society, who claims to be a conservative group. But I argue the simple point to this, okay? There's no way that a conservative group, under any circumstance, under any place, stands in unison, lockstep, with organizations like the League of what is it now? The National League of Women Voters, which is a Soros-funded radical left organization, and Common Cause, which is another Soros-funded radical left organization. Now, if you're like me, all right, and you just sit, you sit on the conservative side, but you sit on this like 2025 conservative side, right? Where you're into the Constitution, right? Like that's what it comes down to, basically, is that when it comes to politics, it's really all about the Constitution. And so, when you sit on that side, you tend and understand who George Soros is and what that man is all about. You understand he is the embodiment of evil, and you understand that if the Soros Management Fund is attached to any organization, that's not an organization that you would trust. And while it's not attached to John Birch Society per se, where they're actually funding them, again, you've got them lining up. The only people trying to scare people over this convention, over this legitimate constitutional process created by our founders, not put in later, created by our founders with no debate, by the way. All right. So when you see an organization like that coming out to fire against it, and you find out that they're in lockstep in opinion with George Soros groups, it's hard to call them a conservative organization. How you doing, Mern? Mern from Jersey. There we go. Good old Jersey. My whole family is going to be coming up from Jersey to visit over in July. I can't wait. I mean, the whole clan's coming up. It's gonna be like 16 people. I'm gonna be having people sleeping everywhere in this house, but so be it, man. Better than having to pay for a hotel, right? Figure it out. But missed you too, Mern. It's been a little while. I've let some go. So, but yeah, so much happening, so many states to watch. And that's why I came back on now. So I was kind of taking a break for a while from the live broadcast. I was contemplating some different videos to try and produce. Like I said, it looks like Facebook took the shackles off of me. So all in all, when it comes to this page and channel growing, of all of them, and X is fairly new, so we're fairly new on X, maybe 6 months or 7 months or so on X. We got about 1,000 there, but when we first, when I say we, because at the time it was Jack and myself, and now it's just me. So, but when I first got onto Facebook, the content was taking off like wildfire. The videos were getting, 60,000 views. I mean, it was wild. Like never could get that kind of viewership on YouTube. Just a different platform, just less shareable platform, whatever. But we just went on once we started uploading directly to Facebook, and it just started going wild. And never have I been able to get that kind of traction on Rumble or the others. And I love those because, you know, for the fact that they never mess with you, right? Like they never mess with you. They just don't have the base, I guess, you know. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but before Facebook knew that I was going to be calling out the CCP and calling out all the machine and everything, you know, they were lighting it up. I got monetized. The first two videos I put out that were monetized, one was on the sex traffic trade. You can see it. I have it still pinned to the top of the Facebook page. And that one was regarding CPS and their involvement with it. And I forget what the other one was, but between the two of them, I made $1,000. I had no idea what being monetized was, and I made $1,000 that month. And it was like 3 days after that actually cleared is when it started. Like the whole page just went dark. Everything was a struggle. Couldn't, you know, forget 65,000 views. I couldn't get, 200. Like it was nuts. So I think now the shackles might be off. Let's keep our fingers crossed because I was able to grow in that time up to around 16,000 followers on Facebook. It's up to 18, close to 18 now. But then it stopped, and then everything froze, and then it was just slow going. A follower here, a follower there. One leaves, one goes. It's just been a back and forth. So hopefully we can really get it growing, so that we can really get this message out, because I think it's just so important. And on that note, so Rhode Island today. And many don't know, Rhode Island actually had a public hearing on Convention of States today as well, and I got to catch. I got to catch the end portion of that, and it was just one of the best atmospheres. I mean, to come from I was tuning in thinking, all right, Rhode Island, right? Because even though it's not partisan from the voters' perspective, there's still a part of you who feels like, it depends on what kind of Democrat, right? If it's an old school, classic liberal Democrat, like a Kennedy-style Democrat, then okay, then they'll probably be on board. But if it's like one of the Marxist doo-doos, like one of these psychos out there where men can have babies and 9,000 genders and whatever, then it's like, oh dear, because Marxism hates the Convention of States movement. It's why Soros hates it, because if this goes through, and like we all cheer about the stuff that Trump is doing right now, and we should, it's all great stuff, but it's important to remember that none of it is really solid. In other words, if we're still a president and a pen away from all these things getting undone, and that's where we the people come in, right? That's where this movement becomes a big deal, because we're not, Trump talks about wanting to get rid of the income tax. Well, you know what? That's all well and good, but then another Congress comes in and decides, you know what? We want it back, and they go back and get it back, right? And the next thing, we're playing this game. Whereas if we could just repeal the 16th Amendment, it's done. It's finished. That's it. They're never, ever going to be able to dupe the American people again into voting, into allowing their states to ratify an amendment for income tax if we can get this one out. And it can come out under the topics of this movement, right? So Mike Arnold, Regional Director, Convention of States. Yes, I did hear from him. I was actually texting back and forth with him on a secure line to his bunker deep beneath the ground out on the East Coast in Massachusetts. No, I was going back and forth with him today. He said he may jump on, so we may get some comments from him afterwards. He was driving, so I don't know how long it's going to take him to get home. He was driving in some bad weather, so I don't think he'll be jumping on before he actually gets out of the vehicle, but good call. But yeah, so, just to get back to how important this is, right? Like, so Kansas wins the supermajority, good shot at them becoming number 20. Wyoming's still out there just waiting for their house to vote on this, and they could be 21, and it's going to be it could be another one of those years where it's like, ooh, bang, ooh, bang, ooh, bang, ooh, bang, like West Virginia, South Carolina, right? Like Wisconsin, everybody just starts jumping on board all at once. Now, I personally am still anxiously awaiting someone of the ilk of Pete Hegseth or Vivek Ramaswamy to start really firing the flare and starting to talk about Convention of States on the national stage, because it's time. It's time. When you look at what Trump is trying to accomplish, or you look at what Convention of States is trying to accomplish, these are in perfect sync. And the only difference is ours is permanent. Right? So like, and of course it's not technically permanent because you could technically amend the Constitution again but who's going to be able to amend the Constitution to give more power to regulatory agencies? Who's going to be able to remove something like a single subject amendment, right? Like who's going to be able to make the argument under the severe conditions that are necessary, the immense amount of agreement that is necessary to get an amendment through? How are you going to find that agreement to bring back the income tax, to do any of this? I mean, you just won't. So it is permanent, in my opinion. And when this gets through, all right, and Trump, if he were wise at this point, now I don't know how much this has even been brought up to him. I don't know how much he even understands about the history of it, etc. But I think if he truly wants to get us where we're going, where he sees his vision, which I think most of us see our vision is in perfect alignment with, like if we really want to get there, this is the way to do it. Like Trump's perfect to be in there right now. He's initiating these things. He's getting the conversation going nationwide. People are now seriously asking, can we get off the income tax? Yes, we can. But those who have never spent any time thinking about it, this is the time now they're talking. And so with all of this going on, term limits, right? Like why? Like how's he gonna? He's already spoken about term limits multiple times. How's he gonna get it done? How's he gonna get it done? He can't get it done. There's no way on earth that the president of the United States can get that done. It has to come from Congress, and they'll never do it. We all know this, right? These are the things that we need to impose. And it's the historical context of getting this accomplished, okay? When I say, I tell grassroots supporters all the time, right? I tell grassroots supporters, I'm like, whenever you're at an event or you're, maybe you're managing a table or maybe you're speaking somewhere or whatever, dress your best and have your best face towards the camera, because your face may very well show up in a history textbook 200 years from now. Talking about this is the significant on. This will be significant on the level of 1776. It will. There's no doubt about it. You hear the analogies made all the time, and there are definitely reasons to make those analogies. But the fact of the matter is, this will change the dynamic. It will change the relationship, regardless of which amendments get ratified, right? So maybe we don't get one and we get another, and we don't get one, whatever. Whatever gets ratified gets ratified. But the process itself completing is going to change the relationship between the federal government and the American people forever, and really make us Marxist proof. I mean, at that point, right, just imagine a world where, the government, these people, they're trying to start a new deep state, corruption starting to bubble up, Trump's long gone, right? And they're trying to work in the shadows again. And all of us, what does their conversation look like? Their conversation will look like something like this. Like, all right, well, here's what we want to do. All right, well, how do we get that through? I don't know. Have you gotten any word? Have we tested the pulse of the people about this? And we have. And there's actually it's actually leaked out. And there's already 3 states claiming that they're on board with the Convention of States to make this permanently invalid. All right. Lay back. Right? Because it's a serious threat. It's like, yeah, the states are pissed and they're about to drop a hammer on you. Like, and that's the way the relationship is supposed to work. As opposed to today, where you get a politician. Obamacare was a perfect example. They go up there. More than 50% of the population did not want this. It's a bastardized hybrid of socialized medicine and with a illusion of free market with this. It's just a mess. Nobody wanted it. But he goes up on a podium and just forgets that. And says, what the American people want is, and then goes on to list off all the things that they don't want. Like, those days will be over, because you get up there and do that and start pissing the people off in that way, they're going to have an immediate recourse. right? And really what Article 5 is about is not even correcting Congress. It's about correcting the courts, because the way that these powers, the way that these regulatory agencies exist, the way that they go on and on with these rules that they and the tyranny that, you know, with the EPA, with harassing people off of their land and all of these things, like the way that all of that becomes a thing is by the Supreme Court allowing it to. And even with the COVID mandates, where the Supreme Court shot it down, if you read the opinions, Amy Barrett and Kavanaugh were not on the same. We're not doing it for the same reason that come on, what's his? How can I forget his name right now? Gorsuch. That they're not on the same page that Gorsuch, Thomas, and Alito were. Gorsuch's opinion was much clearer than theirs. Theirs was, well, we're not going to allow these OSHA to do this because Congress didn't give OSHA specific latitude to do this type to reach out into these areas. Meaning, if Congress did give them the latitude, it would be okay. Gorsuch's opinion was very clear. I don't care if Congress gave them the latitude or not. Congress is out of bounds trying to give that kind of latitude, and that's where it should be. Right. But when the decisions across over a century get made like the Commerce Clause, it just and the laughter that goes on almost every time an issue of taxes comes up, because it's just like, well, historically, we've always given Congress a very wide latitude to tax. Well, you know what? Like, we're taking that latitude away. And the only way to take that away is through constitutional amendment. It's the only way for the American people to overturn the Supreme Court. It's the only way. And it's necessary. And the clarification that needs to be in all of those, on all of those bad opinions that have come out over the years, over the century, they need to be clarified and they need to be done away with. Right? There's so much to fix that can only be fixed via amendment, to be fixed in a permanent way, where there's no more ambiguity, where there's no more, well, what if, or no more radical judge who wants to interpret it a certain way. Those days will be over. And for a Marxist, from a Marxist perspective, if you hear something like that, it's curtains. If curtains, I tell you, curtains. if you look at it from a Marxist perspective, at a balanced budget amendment, well, a balanced budget amendment means an end to fiat currency, because there's no way they can continue to spend the way that they do and print money the way they do if there's a balanced budget amendment. If there's actually an amendment in the Constitution that forces, with teeth, Congress people to balance the budget, well, you can't have Marxism. It's impossible. Marxism requires unicorn spending. It's not an option. It's a requirement. Right? And this is why you see the Soros groups coming out. Now, what's going on with JBS? I don't know. They're probably going to be the target. When I do start producing these videos, JBS is probably going to be in the spotlight, because it bothers me. It bothers me that good, patriotic citizens who have faith in that organization are just being led astray. And it drives me insane that they show up making these same sad arguments, and it angers me now because it's been years that these legislators have been listening to these arguments and never once picked up a book to look at the other side of the argument. And it drives me insane. There was a time where I was giving legislators a pass because I'm saying, in your head, you're like, as a citizen, anyone who's a state legislator should have mastery of the Constitution. Well, you know what? These are regular folks. And like, if you ran for, you wouldn't have a mastery of it, especially things about it that have never been used. So I gave them a break for a little while, but now it's been thrown in their face every year for like 9-10 years. Like, now there's no excuse. There's just no excuse. So getting people to focus. Funny, the comments coming from YouTube. You got to be my only viewer on YouTube for sure. But we love you, man. So getting people to focus on self-governance. We have to be responsible for ourselves. The feds need to step off and leave us alone. Absolutely. Absolutely. We do have to be, and this is it, right? It's all about self-governance, right? I always quote that Levi Preston story. Mark Meckler, founder of Convention Estates Project. Anyone who's a part of the organization or has been following us for any while, anytime knows the story of Levi Preston, and you should look it up because it's a great story. Just it was a point where he was one of the last people alive from the revolutionary time, and they quizzed him and asked him, what they asked him what is it that made you want to get up and fight the British? And they're quoting things like common sense, and other historically written reasons, right? The tax on tea, Stamp Act, and each one of them, he's like, nope. I don't drink tea. I drink coffee. Nope. I don't mail much, so the stamps didn't mean anything. And so what is it? Why? Were you so willing to risk your life and fight the British? And he was like, well, because, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, well, because I reckon we always governed ourselves, and I intend to continue to govern myself. And those British guys wanted to stop that. And it was just a great story of a patriot, and just kind of a lesson in how history isn't always, from the motives perspective or the details perspective. Like, there are other people out there who are not doing it for those reasons, who are doing it for totally different reasons, much more simple reasons. And that was one of the cool things. Eric Hollowell, how are you, sir, on Facebook? So you're about states' rights. I am about states' rights, sir. Very much so. I am about states' rights, in particular, the people's rights. I do believe that the nation was designed, well, I know that the nation was designed to be governed from the local to the federal, not the other way around. So the federal government obviously being a child of the states, right? And so the parent is the clear... And in this case, the parent is clearly the states. There we go. It took me a while to spit that out. But yes, very much so. And good to see you here, Eric. Another YouTube. Wow, YouTube's on fire today. Where are my Rumble people? All right, so JBS, all about fear? Yep, they are. They're all about fear. It's a really bizarre situation, and their main claims are all the same. It's that the original Constitutional Convention was a runaway convention, that they were commissioned to go and revise the Articles of Confederation. Of course, they leave out the other parts of their commission to form a firm national government. And they say, well, they went in there, they were ordered to revise the articles, and they came out with a whole new document. And it's just nonsense. You can read Federalist Paper. Don't listen to me. Listen to James Madison. He articulates that exact point in Federalist Paper 40, where he gets on and on about, he even says, like, all right, well, to paraphrase what he said in today's English, he's basically making the case that you're asking us to take the Articles of Confederation, this document that was specifically written to not have a firm national government, and revise it as such so that it does have a firm national government. So, and his point is, would it make you feel better if we still called it the Articles of Confederation, but then just put the Constitution as the text of the Articles of Confederation document? Like, or which is supposed to be the ends, he says, and which the means? Is the ends to just revise the Articles of Confederation, and the means to that is to go against everything it says? Or is it the other way around? Did you intend to have the ends be that we have a firm national government, and that the Articles of Confederation is an avenue to try and get there? And his point is, there's no way they took the ends to be the creation of a firm national government. And they did that because Shays' Rebellion proved to the entire nation that we could no longer exist with a weak, underfunded, militarily insignificant entity as our central body. That there needed to be some teeth to the federal government. And as a result, they called this convention. And that the entire purpose of which was to create a firm national government to prevent things like Shays' Rebellion, among other issues. All right, there were many other issues. Shays' Rebellion just became famous as like the breaking point, but which was a rebellion. I believe it was in Massachusetts. Don't quote me on that part, but it was a rebellion of farmers angry about taxation and banking issues, and ended up, rising up and almost took down the state. And the federal government was helpless to do anything. And everybody understood at that point. Everybody understood at that point that a national government was needed. But it was always looked at as a necessary evil, never as a force for good. As a matter of fact, and that's proven by the fact that they tried to avoid it pretty much altogether in creating the Articles of Confederation. Rumble seems to be off kilter this evening, not letting me on with you. Damn you, Rumble. Let me give a quick look over to Rumble and see what I'm looking at here. Oh, it looks okay on my end, but you never know. I'm looking at it with your comment up there, Mike, so I'm not sure. Not sure. Could be something else, but I had Eric there giving me a little stick from Eric and I debate on the platform quite a bit over there on Facebook, so it's good to see him over here. But look, right now, I mean, the main reason for jumping on right now was to go over some of these wins and kind of celebrate some of these wins. And while I was talking, we were talking, Michael and I earlier about about the cautious optimism, but like I'm feeling it. Like I'm feeling buzz right now. I was watching that Rhode Island public hearing on Convention Estates, and like it was pretty freaking awesome. I mean, there were like 15 proponents. One guy who showed up from Common Cause, and he was kind of a doo-doo. Hey, there we go. Some Rumble comments. All right. Nice to see the Rumble platform is not killing me over here. And how about X? Let's see if we can get anybody from X to drop a comment. So look, the bottom line is let's get back to Article 5. So we've got the win in Rhode Island. Well, it's not a win in Rhode Island, but I say that it is. This public hearing went extremely well. The one doo-doo from Common Cause decided to not speak because he was so outnumbered by proponents. Everybody on the committee, and this was a large committee that they had in Rhode Island. So, like, of all the ones that I watched with their committee hearings, I don't see this many people on the committee. So it looked like a big committee. And everybody was just loose, and everyone just seemed like proponents. I mean, at the end, a woman jumps in. They're like, "Are there any more speakers?" And you can see the dude was tired. Like it was late. I mean, this just went on like an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half ago, and you can see he was tired. It was late. He was respectful though, and he was just like, "Is anybody left?" And a woman jumps out like, "Me," and runs up there and sits down, and she's like, "Oh my God, I just learned about this today. I didn't even know this was possible. You mean we could impose restrictions on the federal government without the federal government having any say?" I'm like, this is awesome to watch. She's like, "I don't know how." She goes, "I know that if word was out better and if more Rhode Islanders knew about this, that they would absolutely be in favor of this," and blah blah blah. And I'm just like this is what the American people are. And I don't know if that woman was a Democrat or Republican, but it's Rhode Island, so I'm going to assume she was a Democrat, right? So, but in the end, it just again crosses the party line. Like these are just issues that we can all agree on. They're just issues that we can all. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. Right. And where's my, here we go. Right. These three issues. I mean, there's no way to there's no serious American who disagrees with any of this. Now you could get into, well, what do you mean by government overreach? Right now, and I know at the crux of it, the meaning is designed to be regulatory agencies and addressing the fact that everything they do can be done at the state level. And most of it already is done at the state level. Right. So whether or not an organization like OSHA is really necessary, where the government even gets the authority to have an organization like OSHA, doesn't mean you don't want work safety. It just means you want the states to handle their own work safety. Right. Like that's not hard to wrap your head around. They're very simple concepts. Right. Term limits. Virtually everyone wants term limits. Now, there's a handful of people out there from Alberta. There we go with the international folks chiming in now. How are you, Kevin? Thank you for jumping on. And you know what? I get a lot of people interested in the concept via messaging from all over the world. Actually, I've gotten messaged by people from Kazakhstan, New Zealand, UK a lot, Australia a lot, Canada a lot. Like, and really the reason they were reaching out, and more so, in pre-Trump than now in the Trump era, is because, number one, they were curious to know what the hell this Article 5 thing was all about. But number two, they were also, interested because they understand that while we all banter back and forth, right? And like, now we got this like hockey rivalry going on with Canada, but like in the end, we all understand we're on the same team. And the fact of the matter is, everybody knows if the United States were to fall to these psychopaths and these globalists, everyone else would be helpless. Like, we're the big fish that these globalists are trying to take out, and we just broke off the line. We just broke off the line. So, and I think everybody's happy about that. And it raised a lot of curiosity as to, this ability to be able to restrain the federal government from the bottom up. Like, that's no one in history has ever had this power. No one. There's never been, I listen to everybody talk to me about how empires fall and this and that. And I'm like, we're not an empire. Not in the traditional sense. If we were an empire, we would have taken over the world after World War II. Like, instead of using that money, name me an empire that spent their money rebuilding another nation after beating it in a war and then rebuilt it and didn't take control of it. Right? Like, there are unique properties. There's a lot of crappy stuff that we've done. I'm not trying to look. The deep state era has been a disaster. So I'm not trying to alleviate from that, but we're on the path of fixing that right now. But this power to go ahead and change our own constitution, right? I mean, for many of us, the Bible is the founding document that we got our life by, but from a political standpoint, the Constitution is absolutely that. And in the end, the fact that the people could directly manipulate change to that Constitution in an organized and professional and peaceful fashion has never been seen before in human history. And frankly, we've never done it yet here either. We're about to, though. We're about to. Let's take a look at some of these. She was a lady off the street testimony. We literally spoke to her in the hallway before the hearing. So this is the lady that I was saying in Rhode Island that ran up to the podium or ran up to the mic at the very end and was like, I've never heard of this before. Like, blah, blah, blah. I was like super excited for it. And I mean, obviously I would like even her to do some more reading on it just to understand, but it was exciting to even hear. And I can tell you, when I first learned about this, my initial instinct was to buy into the JBS bullshit. That's why I call them JBS. My initial instinct was to buy into the fear mongering and just kind of, because it was like, this can't be right. But the more, in looking at both sides and realizing that one side was clearly using like traditional tactics, like taking people's quotes out of context, the founders taking out of context. They took Antonin Scalia out of context. They're just, when people start doing that kind of stuff, immediately they become suspect. And then the more you read into the history, and then I got to the Federalist Papers, and it was funny is JBS actually led me to the Federalist Papers because they took a quote out of context from that too, from way in the bottom. I forget the exact quote, but I remember saying, all right, well, let me go read this. And I went to go read it. And as I'm reading it, number one, I'm like, I don't see the quote that they gave. It was there. It was just way at the bottom. But as I'm reading through it, I'm like I said before about what Madison's argument was, I'm like, Madison's clearly making the case right here that they were within their commission. So like it's a process, right? It's a process, but like it's important. Even that lady off the street, that she, maybe take a head over to Cos University, go through some of the video index they have there. There's a lot of cool constitutional stuff in there, and like, get yourself up to speed. Because if she's like me, when you hear about something like this, and when you finally realize that it's 100% legitimate and something that we could do right now, it's like a light goes on. You're just kind of like, whoa, really? Like, how does no one know about this? I need to get this out. And boom, next thing you know, my channel ended up becoming dedicated to doing this. And that was some 4 years ago now. Right. And so, I've been through the rough years, some of these rough years. I've been through there was one great year where we hit up 4 states joined on all in like a row. It was like, I don't even know what to do. There were so many people signing on. And I got a feeling that this year is going to be very similar to that. And if we can get some love, from the congregation on this administration, I think that it'll be a lot faster than people think. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a stuffy nose. I had COVID over the weekend, so I'm kind of still recovering a little bit. But kick the Board of Ed to the curb. Yeah, the Board of Ed is pretty much gone, right? I listened to Trump saying that I'm hiring Lisa McMahon to fire herself. he said something in that light, like I'm hiring her to stage her own termination, and she knows, and she's fully aware of why she's being hired. So it was a really cool thing for him to say. Another totally useless organization doing things that that are not covered, under the 10th Amendment. Clearly, there's no place in the Constitution that authorizes the government to deal with education. So another, like I said, Trump's doing a lot of the things that can get accomplished by this, but it's just they're all pen and paper. They're nothing right now. So to me, the core issues, right? The fiscal restraints on the government, the term limits, like this predates Trump. Yeah, he's doing what he can from an executive order standpoint and all that. I've never been a big fan of executive orders. It really just blew out of freaking control. Like and where it got out of control really started with Obama. Then Trump did the same freaking thing. Then Biden did the same freaking thing. Now Trump's back doing the same thing. And each one of them comes in and erases the last guys. And like, this is not how the government's supposed to run. So I would very much like, and I'm still sitting on my hands wondering, what the hell's Congress doing? Like, what exactly are they doing except making YouTube videos? Because that's all I'm seeing. If I have to watch one more congressional hearing, I don't even give a shit what it's about. Like, congressional hearings are the biggest waste of freaking time that you could possibly have. We love the Canadian truckers, great group of people. Yeah, absolutely. I've been laughing at these hockey tournaments because, obviously, I think it was in Montreal. Was it? Was it Montreal? Quebec? They booed the national anthem. Then the fights broke out and they start off the game and America wins. And it's like, yeah, but really it was about anger over the booing of the national anthem. Now, unbeknownst to most Americans, there was still a tournament to go on. It wasn't like a 1-game thing. And so they go and play through the tournament, and it turns out the two of them come back again in the finals. And this time it goes to overtime. So it was a good battle, I guess, but Canada won. And I had no idea. It's not like I was watching it or anything, but like all of a sudden I see all this stuff in my feed, like basically, all the Canadians kind of sticking it back to us because Americans were all putting it in their feed, the first game. And I'm just like, I didn't even know there was a game. So what does your shirt say? My shirt says the founders have my 6 by giving me Article 5. On the bottom is hashtag call the convention. And this barcode right here, if you scan it, it takes you to go sign the petition. So it's kind of cool. One of my faves in there. Whenever there's something fired up about Article 5, I generally, this is my go-to. All T-shirts are available, by the way, in my Etsy store. You can get to the store by going to thepatriotthinktank.com. There's a little tab up top to merchandise. It'll take you to my Etsy store, so you can support the channel that way. It's always appreciated. But yeah, I mean, it's time. It's time, right? And I'm feeling better about convention estates now than I have in most years. Like I go into every year excited, but like this year just feels different. Like just watching, after all of these different things that I've watched and all the different like state legislatures debating and all the different things like that. All of that and I can tell you this one feels different. It just feels like, and maybe it's because of the way everything's going in the federal government right now and all this, but like, and I'm noticing here, Ruben, I don't know if you're still watching. I just flipped over to X and I saw, here he goes. All right, there he is, Ruben Rodriguez. Way to go, Toto. Who's Toto? You're going to have to help me there. You were in there. It was just a small one in the midst of larger comments, so I apologize for the miss there. But yeah, so, and Ruben's another one of my buddies back in Jersey. And that's the X comment. So I think that's what that was in response to. I was looking for that X comment. So I appreciate that. Yeah, the more comments, the better, folks. The more comments, the better. I love to engage. And if you have a friend who's into, so all right. So the Toto comment, it just popped in here. So he's saying, way to go, Toto was the first one. And I said, what's that from? He's like, Wizard of Oz, and it's because of Kansas. That's awesome. I should have made that connection. My bad. But yeah, go Kansas, go Grassroots, right? So I got that image now where I was playing with AI and I was able to get this image of like of a patriot like drinking from a can that says Article 5 on it, and I use it as like a toast to the Grassroots. Every time they do something positive, I'll put up a post with that image and kind of give a toast to the Grassroots of that area. So it's becoming something now. I didn't do it intentionally at first, but then I realized this is kind of a cool thing to do. So I'm going to keep doing that on the X and Facebook platforms. Wyoming, Kansas, Idaho, New Hampshire, Iowa, keep an eye on all of them. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Idaho just passed subcommittee. New Hampshire, I'm not sure where they're at, but I know that I know they were being talked about. Or it was Iowa I think both Idaho and Iowa passed subcommittee or passed committee. Wyoming, Wyoming is in a race right now with Kansas to be the 20th state. I'm telling you, I feel good about this stuff. I'm feeling good about it. All we need is one more chamber in Wyoming, and they're the 20th state. So we're going to see who gets to see this first to be that 20th state. But my money is on Kansas. I think Kansas is going to hear this faster. I think Wyoming was not one of the, and I'm sure that the regional directors for these areas be like, what do you mean Wyoming wasn't on your radar? like it should have been maybe, I don't know. South Dakota definitely wasn't. That one came out of nowhere. But so what? Back when, I wasn't thinking South Carolina when they came through and they did. So, what I'd really like to see is Pennsylvania. They were really, really promising at one point, and then it just kind of to the point where maybe 2 years ago Meckler was talking about like having conversations with like the whips in those in Pennsylvania and coming out of it thinking that they were going to get something, and then they didn't, and it just kind of went away. YouTube just bumped me off. Guess they didn't like my comment. Yeah, YouTube is, I still stream there, but I will tell someone who is watching this, like, I don't really put any priority at all. The bouts and jousting that I've had to do with YouTube, not so much over the Convention of States conversation, but like when I get into deep state and I start doing things on WEF and now, especially now, I'm going to start producing videos again. I'm just waiting for the censorship. I mean, 8 times although I'll give them credit for one thing. There was one point where they shut me down, or they gave me a strike. They shut me down for a week. And then almost 2 days after I came back, I posted a video there and they struck me again. So I had now it was a month. So I had a month and they were my primary upload. That's what encouraged me to start uploading directly to Facebook, because previously I was using the Facebook page to post YouTube video links to, and that's where I learned that like when you upload directly to Facebook, it's a whole different animal. And I saw one video a few of the videos just taken off, and I'm like, man, I never got a response like that on YouTube, and like between the comments and the engagement and everything else. And it turns out I was like, thanks, YouTube. Best thing you could have ever done is best thing you could have ever done was ban me 8 times in general. I got banned on YouTube, 8. And I never was banned anywhere else. Like Facebook, though, they don't ban. They basically, well, I guess they do, but what they did to me was just shadow ban. It's that stuff that Zuckerberg was explaining to Joe Rogan about the COVID stuff. Like he's like, well, we don't really go the Twitter route. We just go ahead and, make you less visible. And what they'll do is they'll put a tag on your video. So even if your followers go to your page, see it, and share it, their followers and their friends won't see it because it's got that tag on it. And it's very, and when it happens to you, like when you get it on you, because your whole channel just stops. Like all of a sudden there's like no activity. So it's like either all the content just started sucking at once, like even the stuff that was highly rated and getting tons of views, or somebody's playing with, someone's got their finger on the switch, right? And it turns out they had their finger on the switch, but we'll see. Like I said, these last few posts I put out, one of them got was 75,000 views. It wasn't a video though, so we'll see how the videos do. I'm going to start. That's because hey, right? If I am still monetized, I just never get paid because they won't share any of my content. But if I can start getting some globalist videos, things like that out, those generally gain a lot of traction and provide some insight into what's going on in the world. Things like why all this gold is being sent back from London and all things like that. Those types of issues, those tend to get a ton of traction. And then I start slipping the Convention of States videos in there and kind of get it in front of the eyeballs that I needed. So Pennsylvania having a surge day on 3/24. So show up, stand up. Yeah, you can get this type of information, the details about what's going on, folks. The first thing you should do, because this is all on a state level, right? This is all down to the district. So what you do is you go to conventionofstates.com and you sign the petition, and then go ahead and select take action. And then what will happen is someone local to you, because this is what makes the movement so wild, is that there's people in every single district in the country. All right. And they reach out to you, and it's not like they're going to start harassing you. Like you just have a conversation with like-minded people. Right. And then, they do these events, and if you can show up to them, then you can help support. Right. And if maybe you can't, but maybe you got time to give. Maybe you don't. Maybe you got money to give. Maybe you don't. Maybe you got time instead of money, or maybe you have a skill. Maybe you get help with some video editing, or, maybe get someone a discount on banners, or whatever it really is. Doesn't matter, but anything you could do to help. I say to people, you give 15 minutes, right? You give if 1 million people give 15 minutes, that's a lot of that's a lot of time, right? That's a lot of time, right? And there's even a spot for social media warrior, right? Where you get educated on it. They get you up to speed on it. Make sure there's only a handful of arguments against it. You learn them, and then boom, now you can go out and advocate online, right? Just like that lady that came running back into Rhode Island today, and came running up there saying, "I just heard about it today. I'm so excited about this. This is awesome." Like that lady would be a perfect social media warrior. Right? Because she was making the point, and even the people in the committee were like, if more people knew about this, I absolutely think that this movement would be a lot greater. Right? And that's with all the efforts that are being made to get the word out now. But there's just so much going on in the world today, especially in this country, it's hard. What is a surge day? So, Mern, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'll post your comment when you do. But I believe a surge day is where people will show up to the legislature. Is that correct? Where they show up in force, or to some site, right? Some significant site. I believe it was a legislature. But I'll give Mern a minute to kind of put something together there. Yeah. So that's what it is. Yeah. So that basically a lot of supporters in a given district will show up to the legislative office and kind of, just be heard, right? Just be heard. And for those that don't understand the way that looks and the impact that has, state legislatures are a lot smaller than, and when I say not the whole legislature, but the individual representative is representing a smaller district than, let's say, a state senator, like he's got the whole state, or a congressman, whatever. Like these are local people going to their local legislatures and letting them know. Now, as few as and I say few, but it's a lot of people, as 100 people is an incredibly impactful thing. Even 50 people is an incredibly impactful thing to a state legislator. To have 50 of your constituents who actually got together, took off a day work, came down, to make themselves heard, right? Now, if you could get 100 or if you can get 1,000 people, now it's a big freaking deal. Like, it's a big freaking deal. Believe me when I tell you, and the cool thing is they don't go there like these animale from friggin', these protests you see in the streets today, burning stuff and screaming and yelling. Like, they're totally professional about the way they do it. They're nice to, if they come across the legislators, they're nice to them. They're polite. They respect the fact that they have a job to do. They just want to get their point heard. And it does get heard. Like those surge days, I think, are a really good thing. Another cool thing that I think that Convention of States organization does, I actually took part in one of these here in California when I first signed on, was a handwriting letter party. And basically you get together, you have some beers and chill, a bunch of patriots, like-minded folks. You just having conversations, but everybody sits down and hand writes a letter to the local legislator. And it's incredibly impactful. Legislators across the country have mentioned, and it makes 100% sense to me, that when you get a handwritten letter, even if you get a handwritten letter in the mail today, right, and you don't even know who it's from, you don't know what it's about, whatever, it's but you look in your mail and it's obviously handwritten. Everything on the envelope is handwritten. You're much more likely to open it and be like, what is this? Right? And because somebody took the time to sit there and write that letter, like handwrite that letter. And it adds a touch of personal importance to the letter. And when you get them in mass, if you get 100 or 200 of them, yeah, it matters. It's noticed, right? And I just thought that was one of the really cool strategies I had seen when I was, directly engaging in the effort. So, but yeah, folks, great wins today. I hope everyone's fired up. If you haven't signed the petition by any way possible, get over there and sign it. Get over to X and follow me there, because I am definitely trying like hell. It has been a painstaking process to replicate what I did on Facebook on X. It's been a painstaking process. But that being said, I haven't been producing the way that I used to when I grew that following on Facebook. So we'll see. We'll see if that ends up making a difference as I start navigating through that. But at whatever platform you're watching me on, definitely click follow. Definitely click notify when live. You will see me jump on whenever there's updates like this to be had, when there's movement in the states. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so I definitely highly encourage everybody to do it. And let's go through this together. Bring some. If you got a friend who thinks it's going to go crazy and all the fear mongers got to him about a convention of states, bring him with you, or pop the show on when it comes on and he's there, and let him come on and pop off his questions. So it's definitely a welcome thing. And anyone will tell you that's been watching this is that I will absolutely stop everything. I don't care if my conversation is completely off, is completely off the topic. I will come right back to this topic, if it becomes pertinent, and that's the case. All right. So with that being said, folks, I am going to head out. Again, keep a lookout. Make sure you're following. Keep a lookout for some new videos that may be coming shortly. I'm working on clipping stuff together and kind of doing the background stuff, but I got a lot going on right now, so I don't have a dead timeline. But I will start producing more. You'll see those popping up on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All right, folks, until next time, I'm out.